Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. There's no match preview or review or anything like that today, no podcast today. We're going to be just talking about Celtic in a manner which carries on the sort of negative vibe, which is just great. Now, the conversation has been had for a while now about what is going to happen next season, the fact that the club are going to have to go through what has been dubbed a rebuild, and we've kind of knew this for years, back even in 2016-17, when Rogic was still in charge. I always knew that after the season, which could have been the 10 in a row, Celtic would be going through a rebuild, players would go, what would have been the biggest accomplishment would have been accomplished, and there was going to be changes, but now of course with the club in turmoil, you could say, with Peter Law retiring and hopefully with a new manager on the horizon somewhere, the club will go through a lot of changes, and it'll be a new era for Celtic, to be honest. And this is a squad that has enough players in it it's good enough to win the league, but this season it's just not went like that. It's been disgraceful. We've been mismanaged at the top and we've been mismanaged on the park. It's just been shambolic and players are looking to move on. We've already seen Jeremy Frimpong surprisingly leave us to head to Bayer Leverkusen. We've all spoke about the talk of Edouard and Ayer and players like Ncham, who has also left, being on that sort of list of players we'd expect to see go. But the question is now, who is good enough to be here next season? Who will be here next season? Now, before we get started, and there's comments flying in about how I dubbed this team to be the best in the country at the start of the season, and now I might be saying them to go. We're going to look at this video in a number of ways, and I'm going to go through the entire squad. And may I just quickly add, the video's been kind of inspired by the Cynic, so thanks to they guys for supplying us with a graphic. A lot of people have been sharing this on Twitter and giving their opinions of who'll be here next season, or who should be here next season. So I'm kind of inspired from that image to make this video. So shout out to the Cynic, make sure to go and follow him on Twitter. Some fantastic content, as we all know. And we'll go through the whole squad. So there will be players who once I thought were good enough that might not be good enough now. You know, there's going to be a few conversations to be held. Now, of course, if we talk about all 25 or so players in great depth, then we'd be here for, this could be an hour long. So I'm going to try and fly through it as quickly as possible, but we've got to look at it in a number of ways. Got to understand that now. I'm looking at this at realistic. I'm looking at this at players that I don't think will be here next season or shouldn't be here next season. Players like Edouard, I don't think we'll be here next season. That's kind of a spoiler for one of the players already, but we're going to be looking at it both in the sense of players who I think will want to move on and players that we should move on. The players that I think should be here next season are the players that will be a green tick beside their name. So there's a lot of factors to look at it like, and we'll explain each one as we go through. So let's go through the whole squad. Who should be at Celtic next season as part of this rebuild? And I swear to God, if Neil Lennon is part of the rebuild, I may as well just quit. Now, we always do this with these videos and it's the most logical way to do it, so let's work from back to front. Who should be here from goalkeepers to strikers, which means we start off in the goalkeeping department. We have 3 names to talk about. Let's start with the first one, Celtic's number 1. Kind of. Vasilis Barkas, should he be here next season? Yes. I believe that we will eventually see the best out of Barkas. Look, we all know it's been a tough gig for him. We look at him and think, you know, he's hopeless at the minute. But he has been bizarrely managed. I think that the backline ahead of him as well hasn't helped him. His confidence has been shattered from day one. And I feel sorry for any goalkeeper that has Shane Duffy in front of him at the minute. I think we will see the best out of him. New manager, new backline. And I think he will start to make saves. And also, we've paid £5-6 million for him. Why would we ship him off now? We need to try and at least get some good football out of him to keep something on his price tag. If we look to sell him on, how much are we realistically going to get back for him? I think he's got to be here next season. The other 2 goalkeepers, Scott Bain, Connor Hazard, I simply don't think are good enough. I don't think they should be here next season. And I can understand now that there will be probably comments rolling in right now that, you know, Barkas is just as bad as them. You know, what have they done that Barkas hasn't? Vice versa, you know, all that good stuff. And people will be quick to judge Barkas and judge my opinions on why he should stay, and they too shouldn't. Look, Barkas we've invested in, and we know he has got quality. He's shown it at the highest level, and I think we will get out of him. Scott Bain and Connor Hazard, I don't think are going to develop any further. I don't think we will get anything out of them. Bain right now has had a couple of games where you could say he's made a couple of good saves here and there, but I just think over the course of his entire Celtic career, he hasn't showed enough. Connor Hazard isn't a Celtic quality goalkeeper. It gave us a great moment in that penalty shootout against Hearts, but the goals he's been conceded have been abysmal. He doesn't look confident either. I think he's rash. And, you know, it never really worked out for him in his loan deals either when he was loaned out from the club. So I think there are 2 goalkeepers that aren't good enough to beat Celtic. Ultimately, the goalkeeping department is one, you know, department we need to go and improve. two or three additions maybe. You don't know how many players we need until we sit down and see what we've got in the summer. But for me, Bain and Hazard aren't good enough. Right backs, let's start with John Joe Kenny. We've got him on loan. I can't remember now off the top of my head if there's an option to buy. I would like us to extend it, but of course we've only seen one game from him. Let's not get over our heads. I was very impressed with his first game. I think he was good, but I was also very impressed with Shane Duffy's first game as a Celtic player. Learning to take it a step at a time now, rather than get ahead of myself. But I think John Joe Kenny has shown over his career. I think he was really good at Schalke too. That he'll be good enough for us, and I would like to see us extend that. So I'd put a green tick beside his name. Realistically, will we extend it or will we get him back next season? I think we need to see the ambition of the club first. I think he'll sit down and see how he's enjoyed his time here, what the plan of the club is, and then we can maybe look to making that a longer term thing. Alamed, I don't think will be here next season. There has been the talks of him being homesick. There are the talks of him wanting to move back over to Israel to be with his family and such. Things haven't worked out well for him in that side of things. As a footballer, I would love to keep Alamed at the club. I think he is a good player. Yes, there's been a couple of dodgy moments this season, but you just don't know where his head's at. If it was possible for him to, want to stay at Celtic, then I would keep him. But realistically, I don't think he'll be here. So that's a red cross. And finally, Tony Ralston, absolutely not. Centre halves, let's start with Stephen Welsh. Stephen Welsh, I think, has got a decent enough future at the club. I think he's shown a couple of good performances that he can be a part of this rebuild. I don't know to what extent. I don't expect him to be Celtic's starting centre half, but I think he's certainly good for depth, and I would keep him around the club. Of course, the centre half area is another area like the goalkeepers. 2 or 3 additions is probably needed, but I think keeping Welsh around for depth is probably a good option. He's young, a couple of good performances, as I said. Don't know why he was dropped after the Hibs game to kind of suit Beaton and Duffy again, but here we are, and now he's come back into the team, and he'll be trying to take that by the horn and run with it. But we'll see what happens with him. He's got a long way to go, I think, but right now I'd keep a green tick beside Stephen Welsh. Near Beaton, no, I think his time's done at Celtic. I really do. I think he's been a shadow of himself this season, from someone who towards the end of last season, and even when he first started playing centre half this season, he was someone who I thought to myself, yep, do you know what, he's really good to keep about, a utility man, can play centre mid, play centre back. But I think he has done. The derby, of course, at the start of the year kind of showed it all very rash from him, kind of cost us the game, you could say. I just don't know. He's not good enough to be a centre half. It's as simple as that. And we've seen over the course of a season, yes, you could maybe use the same argument as I used for Barkas, if you don't pair him with Duffy and you give him a new manager to install confidence in his game, we see better out of him. But he's been at Celtic now for almost a decade, and I feel like his time here's done. I feel like we've had the best of him. He's not going to improve. We should look to move him on, I think. If he was still here, it's not one I'd have a sort of gripe about, but I just think his time is nearing the end. Shane Duffy, send him back to Brighton. Let's never see him again. the absolute fucking complexion of how we welcomed Duffy to the club to how we want rid of him. Potentially the worst signing that's ever been made in Scottish football history, to take it that far. We never want to see him in a Celtic shirt again. I think that's the general consensus, and it's a shame obviously in the sense that he came in a Celtic man and we all had this high hope, and we thought he was going to be the best centre half in the country, but it never turned out that way. He's just simply not good enough, and I think that would perhaps be an understatement. Duffy needs to go, and we'll hopefully never see him again in a Celtic shirt. Christopher Jullien, big green tick beside him. He's got to stay. He's been very unlucky this season with injuries, which is a shame. I think that the only time we showed a sort of defensive stability was when Ayer and Jullien were partnered for a few games before Jullien was injured again. So I'd keep Jullien, of course. I think he's a player that we'll see at Celtic for the next 2 or 3 years. I don't see him going any higher than Celtic, and I certainly don't think he's in any rush to leave at the minute. I think he's probably quite happy, but we said that with Frimpong, and he's off. And finally, Christopher Ayer, red cross beside, because he won't be here, I don't think. I would love Ayer to stay. Look, I'd kill for Ayer to stay. This season he's arguably been our best player, but he's just not going to be here. He's too good. He deserves better than what he's had this season. And I know a lot of people still, as I've used the word before, gripes. I think a lot of people still have gripes with Ayer. Look, he's not perfect. He does make mistakes, but he's certainly very young with a lot of potential. and a player that many clubs I think across Europe would happily take on, just for the sheer development factor. So look, red cross for that fact. If we could keep him, I would, but I don't think he'll be here next season. Left backs, and we only have 2 at the club, so yet again another area we need to improve. Defensively, we are so thin in the ground. Greg Taylor, green tick beside, because if Laxalt goes and we don't sign him permanently, we only have one left back option, and it's him. And we can certainly do better. I think Taylor has started coming on to a bit of a game, but I still wasn't impressed with him against Kilmarnock. I wasn't impressed with him against St Mirren. I still think that he's got a long way to go, but once again, he's very young. There is development there, so I'd keep him, yes. Laxalt, I don't think we'll see come back. And when he first signed, yep, I was all for it. I was like, get this guy playing like this constantly throughout the season, and we'll sign him up next year, hopefully. But, you know, AC Milan are talking in a region of, I think, €5 to €7 million, and I don't think since his first 5 or so games we've seen performances that would justify spending that much on Diego Laxalt. So for me, it's a red cross. We need a bit more from him before we think about spending money. Look, maybe another year loan deal if it was possible, but I don't think AC Milan will be interested. And ultimately, will Laxalt be interested in coming back to Celtic after the season we've had? Especially, you know, he doesn't speak a word of the language. I don't think that he'll want to come back here, especially if Lennon's in charge. I think he'll know that he can go to other clubs around maybe Italy, Spain or such, and get football there and probably enjoy himself a lot more. Also, very quickly, may I just throw in, this is my opinion. Everybody will be entitled to their own opinion, as I always say. Let me know what you think in the comments, but right now, this is what I'm rolling with. The middle of the park, Christ, we've got a lot of names to run through here. Let's try and do it as quickly as possible, and it's going to be annoying not being able to give a lengthy justification for everyone, and some might have longer justifications than others. That's going to be frustrating, but we're already 10 minutes into the recording. I need to move my arse. Right, Scott Brown. No, red cross, he's done. I think we can all accept this time that he is done. Yes, he scored at the weekend against Kilmarnock. I don't think that, on Tuesday night against Kilmarnock, I don't think that shows that he's going to be, and that he should be in this team for much longer. Look, I'm all for keeping Brown on at Celtic as a coach, or anything like that. And you know what, maybe I'd even put a tick beside him as a player who sees no football, but I think his time as Scott Brown, captain of Celtic, is over. And it's came out in a kind of tragic manner, of course, with the way this season's panned out, but we can see that he's finished. I think that, you know, the first kind of until he scored against Kilmarnock, we've seen that. So red cross for me, Brown. Scott Robertson, tick, bright future. We've loaned him out, of course, just now. He's back down in League One in England, but green tick. Ewan Henderson, green tick. Once again, young. I think that we've got to give these guys a chance when we can, and they can certainly offer something to Celtic that we've not seen this season. You know, they've been waiting in the pecking order behind the likes of Scott Brown. Let's give them a chance. Now, I'm not saying Robertson or Henderson are of the quality to jump right in that starting 11 and carry us in the next few seasons, but there certainly is the chance to bring them in the team. Look what we've done with Sorrow and Turnbull. We just need to wait and see. Brings me on to Sorrow. Nice wee segue. Massive green tick. He's been brilliant since coming in. A couple of lacklustre performances, but overall, I've been very impressed with what I've seen from Sorrow. And it looks as though he's going to be a breath of fresh air in the Celtic team. Ahead of them, Olivier Ntcham, red cross. I don't think that he'll return to Celtic. If he does, I think we'll then move him on via a transfer. Let's see how he does at Marseille. Look, Ntcham, as we all know, can offer a lot of quality, but we just don't see it enough. You know, this whole on his day pattern, it's worn out. It's once in a blue moon. It's a red cross for me. Callum McGregor, massive green tick. He's, you know, the now captain of this football club pretty much, and I think when we have a new manager, McGregor will be back to his best. I think we'll see Mr. Consistent again. He's burnt out at the minute, and I've said that time and time again. I think he needs a rest. He's played more football than anyone on the bloody planet. So, you know, we need to give him a rest. I think that when we do get a new manager, it'll rejuvenate him. I think we'll get him back to his fittest, and we'll see the best out of him. So, green tick. And David Turnbull. What else is there to say about Turnbull? Right now, he's probably our best player in the team. He's probably the future of this club, and he's the player that we should be building the team around. So, you know, put a few green ticks in there, not just the one. We'll give him a few. So the attacking midfielders / wingers section. Now, this really opens your eyes as to how many wingers we actually have. We have 2, 3 all-out wingers at this club. and that is shambolic. For a club that's played historically with so many great wingers to only have 3, and 1 being out the entire season, we have been so scarce in that area, and it's frustrating. I think it has really harmed us this season in terms of how creative we can be moving forward and what we've been used to playing like. I think it's been hard for Celtic to adjust to playing a lot more narrow and having players like Christie playing on the right when he shouldn't be playing on the right. So we'll go from right to left. James Forrest, green tick. I can't wait to have him back. We've missed him so much this season, and I'm looking forward to seeing him back at his best if we get that. Of course, he is getting on a bit. He's not a young guy anymore, but I think that we'll still see some good football out of him, and we'll welcome him back with open arms. Ryan Christie, look, this is a controversial one. I know a lot of people are at their wits' end with Ryan Christie, and I am at my wits' end with Ryan Christie, but I am going to put a green tick there because he will be here next season, I think. Look, it might strike us by surprise, and a club might come in, they might move on. And if the money was there, I wouldn't be aggrieved to us accepting that. I think that if he was to move on and we replaced him, fair enough. He is such a frustrating player. We know how good Ryan Christie can be, and at times he can be one of the most creative players in the park. But he's just been shooting from 30 yards, week in, week out, 20, 30 yards, and blasting it over the bar. 1 in every 100 shots goes in the back of the net. He's been so frustrating. And I think, once again, he's a player who, with a new manager, getting him to cut that out of his game and actually just play creative, nice football, we'll have a good player in. But it's all ifs, buts and maybes. For me, he's a green tick because I think he will be here. I don't think he's quite earned a bigger move yet. Tom Rogic, what a frustrating player as well. He came back into the team this season. We thought that was the saviour. We thought that was going to turn the corner for us, and it didn't. And now he's dropped out the team again. Lennon brings him on for 10-20 minutes a time, and we just don't get a lot out of him. For me, I'm going to keep a green tick beside his name because he can offer moments of magic, but I just don't know how we're going to get back to getting his best. If he can hit that kind of form that he had in October, November time, you're flying with him. But we don't see it enough. It's like in Cham, you know, we know how good he can be, but it's once in a blue moon sort of territory. For me, I'm holding out that perhaps he'll get fitter. Why am I even saying that? It's not going to happen, but I'm holding out that a new manager might be able to utilise him in a strong manner. El Yunusi, Red Cross. I don't think he'll return to Celtic, and I really like El Yunusi. He's been frustrating as well this season. The whole team has been. We can't hide away from that. I don't think there's anybody bar maybe the likes of Turnbull who have all season been good for us or been useful. El Yunusi, frustrating, but he's had 2 consecutive loan deals now at Celtic. I don't imagine a third is going to be in place, so it's a Red Cross on that fact alone. And finally, Mikey Johnson, Red Cross. I don't think he's good enough, and yes, I've gave the whole young part to Ewan Henderson, Scott Robertson, they can develop. I just don't really like Mikey Johnson, and I want to. And I hope that he does kind of come good, but at this moment in time, as I record this on February the 4th, 2021, for me, Johnson's a Red Cross. Now, can he maybe turn that around from now to the end of the season if he's given enough chances? We'll wait and see, but for me, he's such a frustrating player. And finally, the strikers. Let's go start with Patrick Kamara, green cross. I think we will finally get something out of Kamara. He's shown so many glimpses of it. I think the football we play hasn't quite suited him. He's still to adapt. But once again, bizarre management from Lennon. He's in and out the team. I just don't know when we expect to see him now. He comes on at the 89th minute and we're not giving him a chance. You see that he's got quality. We've seen glimpses of it. We've seen it against St Johnstone. Fantastic finish. Earlier on in the season. I think we will see a lot out of him. He's very young as well. We need to give him time. New manager too. I honestly think we'll get something from Kamara. The same with Ayeti, green cross. I'm quietly confident in Ayeti. Yes, he scored for the first time in God knows how long against Kamara, but it's a superb finish. The way he took the goal as well was great. And I think that we'll get the money's worth out of him. He's not fit at the minute. He's quite frankly a little chubby. And look, when he gets into the team and gets regular football, I think he'll be dangerous. We just need to wait. It's not a guarantee. But I'm holding out and I'm quietly confident. Fitness hasn't been his way either this season. Once again, a player who I think has been bizarrely managed at times. So the final 2 players, Lee Griffiths, Hudson-Odoi, both red crosses for me. Griffiths, he's had chance after chance, time and time again, and I do have a slight feeling of sympathy towards the fact he was thrown under the bus by Lennon after only a few days prior being defended by Lennon. But, you know, he's ran his course here, and I think that slight sympathy is very, very slight. Look, he's had chance after chance, and I know Griffiths is a player of great quality. You know, when he's a great finisher, a great goal scorer, but he embarrasses himself, and that's the worst part. So I think his time at Celtic is drawing to a close, and we've been saying it for a while now. He comes in, he scores, and I feel happy for him when he scores, and then he goes and throws it away. It's just so frustrating, and just like so many players in this team. Edouard, I think, will move on. I think he'll go. I don't see him getting a new contract. I don't see him wanting a new contract. And I see him being one of the players that we will try and cash in on the summer, quite frankly. So, aye, brilliant. 29 players on that list I have just went through, and I have opted to keep 15 of them. And that, in my opinion, as we sit at this exact minute, and we could maybe reevaluate at the end of the season, 15 out of the 29 I think are going to be part of the rebuild next year, through one reason or the other, or should be part of the rebuild. It's going to be a tough summer, it really is, and we need to hurry up and start making changes now. A new manager has to be appointed, but looks as though Lenny's want to go down with the ship. That does it then. It's been a long video, I know. I feel like I've been talking for ages. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe, blah blah blah. Aye, got to finish up and edit this now, so see you all next time.